United States War on Dominicans.
¿Y qué es lo que es?
Was the United States ever in war with the island of Hispaniola?
Dímelo.
When did they first enter the island? What was the reason for war? How did Rafael Trujillo get into power?
Mira con esa vaina.
What was the Trujillo era? And how did all this lead to the 1965 Civil War? United States War on Dominicans.
Oye, ya tú sabes.
This is the Hispaniola History Channel, La Historia de Hispaniola, presented by David Rodriguez. United States War on Dominicans. Folks talk about the war on the Dominican Republic. Many of these things are overlooked and not really talked about, but there was actual war, two wars that the United States engaged onto the island of Hispaniola. First one was 1916. Please be clear, the United States entered the island first through Haiti in 1915. Conquered and took over, trained the soldiers there as soldiers for the United States. And then in 1916, they took the same military force and entered and took over the Dominican Republic. So from 1916 to 1924, the United States had occupied the Dominican Republic. They're taking over customs, they're taking over all the businesses, all the wealth that the Dominican government had at that time. This is another hidden history in terms of what the Dominican Republic was prior to 1915. Please keep in mind that from 1865 on to 1915, that 50-60 year time period, the island was going through a time period of wealth. Not only wealth, but education, innovations. There were black presidents, many schools and universities, newspapers. All these things were going on the island prior to 1915. And the reasoning for the United States to enter the Dominican Republic and the island was somehow Europe or Spain was still interested and still had some claims to the island, and they were planning to come in and take over, and the United States used this as an opportunity to come in and be a defender of the island. But this is a false notion because Spain had no interest or not even the capabilities to come in and take over Hispaniola. The island of Hispaniola and the Dominican Republic and Haiti had already fought off all the foreign powers. From 1865 on, that time period, it was total independence. There was no foreign powers. The island was governed by itself during that time period, so there was no reason for the United States to enter, especially using this guise of protecting the island from foreign invasions like Spain. This was a false notion, a false premise. To this day, it's taught in history books and it's totally false. They came in and planted their flags in some of these old Spanish castles. They were around for a long time. So this was really a form of disrespect, if you ask me, because like I said, the island was already free and independent and engaging in their own businesses with other nations. There was already a camaraderie going on in Latin America, and the Dominican Republic was a central figure in that network of Latin American countries. The United States pretty much wanted to break that up, and that's what they did. So when they entered in 1916, this is what gave rise to power for Trujillo. He came in as a soldier, then rose to power. But let's be clear, like I said earlier, the United States entered Haiti first. We fast forward to 1924, then 1930, and this is where Trujillo comes into power. The United States co-signed every step, putting him into power and let him run amok. This man was known as the Hitler of Hispaniola, so enough said on that. But a lot of this led into what went on in 1965. As we know, Juan Bosch was democratically elected as president in 1965. So democracy ran its course. There was a official democratically elected president. The United States felt that this would have caused a communist government in Santo Domingo. These are all false premises. As stated, Juan Bosch was democratically elected. He should have been president. He should have remained in power. But the United States used this as an opportunity to come in and stir up this civil war and took sides and used some advanced weaponry throughout this whole process. Not only did they use propaganda and leaflets, as they always do when they take over nations, but they were at this time during the 60s using advanced weaponry, weapons they haven't used prior, weapons they were testing, using some advanced psy-ops operations, taking over the radio stations, taking over the media. So while they were waging war on the citizens on the ground, they were also waging war on the behind-the-scenes media companies in Santo Domingo. So many of the things that you were hearing and seeing on television during that time period was planned and orchestrated by the United States government. This was a whole department set up to create false narratives and false perspective in terms of what was going on and give a good, favorable view on what the United States was doing in that time. And this was a propaganda machine that was set in place in 1965 and is probably still in place. The ones that they put in power are still in power. So these things have to be brought to light, because if you're taking over a media station or radio station, that means you're also taking over the schools, the universities, entering or replacing information and putting it in a way where things would seem more favorable for the United States in terms of their place in history in Latin America. So these things have to be understood. To this day, many Dominicans are still under the matrix. This propaganda machine was used to also paint Trujillo and his era in a favorable light. Still is happening, and the aftermath is being felt to this day. During this time period, this is when baseball was introduced, this sport in the island, so to pacify the young men who would be revolutionaries or ones who would defend the island. You can see that in two ways. It was used to pacify the people, but at the same time, the Dominicans took this sport and dominated and used it in a very beneficial way, in an upward mobility way, in which they're now known for mastering the sport. But let's be clear, we have to understand what were the seeds of all this happening. This was the war the United States had on the Dominican Republic. And this has to be known, this has to be noted, and how some of these things are still in place. This is your brother David Rodriguez. Peace. This is the Hispaniola History Channel, La Historia de Hispaniola, presented by David Rodriguez.